Welcome to this Last Mile Profits video, the last word on the last mile. It's rumoured that Polish Post doesn't have the money to pay its posties. Is this true? To find out more, stay tuned. Experience the future of convenience with modern Expo parcel lockers. Cutting-edge innovations that bring parcel delivery to a fundamentally new level. Follow the link in the description to find the best solution for your business. Gary, if I said to you Poczta Polska, would that mean anything?
Unless we were in a bar and it's some sort of drink, then I'm afraid I'd be completely lost on me, no.
Well, all right, I will enlighten you. Poczta Polska is actually Polish Post. And it's been quite sort of visible in the headlines, certainly in Poland recently, because they got a wee problem. The problem is they don't have money, apparently, to pay the posties.
But surely it's a government agency and they have access to the funds of the Polish government, right?
There's two levels, Gary, to the story. There's one level which basically says very poor short-term planning. They claim that there's something like 700 million zloty. If anyone is not into zlotys big time, divide by 4.5, and you get it in euros, which should be paid to them as compensation for delivering the mail as part of the USO, the Universal Service Obligation. Apparently, the EU had to approve that. I'm not sure what the story is there, whether the paperwork came in too late or wasn't correct. But anyway, they don't have that money, but surely that's something they could have planned for. And apparently, they don't have the money to pay the posties. But I reckon, Gary, that's the most visible part of the story. What is more important than the backstory, as it were, I think, is how on earth can you allow a company that big to be so mismanaged?
It does seem strange. I mean, as you know, I worked at Royal Mail back in the day, prior to the privatisation, and there are stories there where you get the end of a quarter or the end of a year, and the coffers were dry. But typically, the management would have to go cap in hand to the Treasury. And ask for a cash bailout. Then the business would report a loss at the end of the year, and off you go. Is that the kind of the mechanism in Poland as well?
I think, Gary, of course, there are issues like that. But the reality is, had it been properly planned, I don't think this is the real story. For me, the backstory is the fact that this organization has been mismanaged for a long, long time. I'll give you a bit of a background because it's quite interesting, and I think it's a good example of what not necessarily to do. So back in 2015, there was a major change in government from a fairly liberal government to, let's say, a populist government. Yeah. All of the management were changed, and the management were, generally speaking, changed based upon, I would say, if not purely, largely political criteria. At the same time, it gets even more interesting. So on one hand, you put in let's say, some politicians or politically affiliated people to run the company. It's quite heavily unionized, had its own issues. Then at the same time, there's another government company called Orlen. Maybe you've heard of Orlen. Orlen's a big petroleum company, one of the biggest in the region. Yeah. Cash rich, loads of cash. And they basically set up a competitive organization in the sexy area of out of home, so lockers and PUDOs.
I think they got about 4,000 lockers.
Place where you can. Correct. I think even more now. Plus quite a lot. I can't remember how many, whether it's 6,000 or 7,000, but or maybe it's less than that. But several thousand PUDOs as well. And instead of combining those two resources, they went head to head. And then just to make it even more complicated, remember this is in Postland, where you've got probably one of the strongest European out-of-home operators in their own home turf with, now it's more, but at the time, sort of last year, it was 20-odd thousand parcel lockers. So, you've got very stiff competition. You take out management who are non-political, and you put in effectively politicians or people affiliated to politics. It's even worse than that, actually, I think. And again, this is, to be fair, this is based upon my understanding as an outsider. But you then put political pressure. So, you have to do this, you have to hire this person, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You've got Orlen on the other side squeezing them. And what do you get? You get one very, very big mess.
So is it feasible that the Polish Post could go under. I mean, because as you said, their incompetence at parcels. My perception, I'm not an expert as clearly, but my perception is that their incompetence at parcels created this massive opportunity for InPost to come into place in the first place. And now, if they've dropped the ball a second time with Orlen, then what's their role in the world? How can they continue? And if they can't manage their cash flow and pay their people, those of us who work in the private sector, I'd be wondering when the bailiffs are coming, when the shutters are coming down.
To be fair to them, it's quite complicated because, as I said, they were to a degree handcuffed and blindfolded and told you've got to do this, that, or the other. It wasn't their decision to put so much resource and to set up a competitive business in another government-controlled company, because although Orlen theoretically is privatized, it's actually controlled by the government. And then it wasn't their role They could have perhaps done more to stop InPost getting so strong. But, for me, what is most amazing, Poland has some of the best last mile managers. We got people who set up Amazon Logistics or were part of the key team setting up Amazon Logistics. InPost, the other example. DPD, Allegro, etc. And we can't find a team who are able to successfully lead Poczta Polska out of the mess that they're in. So, I would say, Gary,
this almost sounds like you're auditioning for the job. Are you interested in becoming the Polish Minister for Postal Affairs? It's who could be better qualified, frankly.
Well, thank you for the compliment, but generally speaking, as you know, I steer very clear of politics. I'm a business guy, but there are a lot of really smart cookies who could do this. My hope is that actually that there is a change now, and I hope that this government does the right thing. The right thing being goes non-political, chooses competent managers to run this business, because I think it is savable, but it's not going to be easy. And maybe because we're running to the end of this vlog, how is it doable? I think there's only one way. Number one, make sure, and the good thing about the bad result is I think the government needs this to work. So get government support, very openly talk to the posties, because they're the guys and girls who will make it happen or not.
Yeah.
And share with them, where the organization is and what needs to happen. And then above all, have a damn good strategy, probably, and this is the important thing, dependent on partnerships and relationships, not trying to go it alone. If they do those things, we could meet in, well, maybe not a year's time, but 2 or 3 years' time on a Last Mile Profits vid and be looking at a completely different story.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. These institutions are incredibly important. We grow up with the post office. We trust them. We trust them with our birthday cards. We trust them with our life savings. And when you hear the institutional damage it's done to brand and trust and capability, we talked in another video about what's happening with the UK post office and the awful mess they've got themselves into here. It is very sad to hear that there's another similar organisation going through a different type of pain. Because these organisations are vital to all of us.
Well, look, let's hope that both the post office and Poczta Polska do find a way out. We'll be observing with interest. And, what can we do? Just keep our fingers crossed.
Exactly.
Thanks for watching this Last Mile Profits video. For more up-to-date last mile news and analysis, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on LinkedIn.